Hi guys, today we're going to be working on some mobilization, which is perfect to do after the body is warmed up, and it really gets the body primed for some lifting, some cardio, or even some explosive movements. So 5 to 10 minutes should be sufficient to get the body really ready to go. We're starting here with the inchworm, standing tall, hinging back, bring the hands down to the mat, and then walking forward down onto the mat. Next we're going to move on to a big Spider-Man stretch. So one big step outside the hands, and then adding just a bit of movement down into the hips. Now there's no right or wrong way to do this. You're actively looking for some areas that might be tight or grotty and just promoting a bit of movement into them. Next we're going to move up into the hip flexor. So take one knee onto the ground, step out in front, keep your core muscles engaged and glutes squeezed as you drive the hips forward, and allow that stretch to come from the knee on the ground right up into the front of the hips. Now in this video we're going to work on one side, so please do both sides, and about 20-30 seconds for every one of these moves. Lying on the back, pulling the knees up into the chest, we get a really nice stretch along the top of the glutes and low back. Next we're going to pull one knee up into the chest, pull it across the body, and you'll feel this come right up on the outside of the glutes piriformis and into your low back. Now, as this is a mobilization technique, we're not looking to really stretch in the end range. We're looking to move the body into the end range of motion, and then try and loosen it out, promote some extra movement in there. So pulling your heels up into your groin here, and then pushing the elbows down into the end range of the external rotators of the hip. And again, you're not holding the end range, you're looking to actually pull into the end range, come back, pull into the end range, and come back. Next we're going to go onto all fours, and we're going to go for cats and camels, or cows and cats, whichever name you prefer. You're going to pull the belly button right up to the ceiling, and then you're going to drive it down to get this almost waving motion through your spine, arching up and back. To progress into a nice ankle mobility, and again external rotation of the hip, step one foot outside the hand, roll the ankle, grab the heel and press your elbow into your knee, and again just adding an extra bit of rotation by looking over that opposite shoulder. Push into the elbow into the knee, and then get that stretch in the groin. Here we're going to bring the leg up across the body, lay it on the mat, and get that extra bit of stretch by bringing the body weight down behind that leg. This is called a pigeon. I'm not very good at it, but I do know that it really helps with my with hips, especially if you've been sitting. If you have a sedentary job, if you sit a lot, these kind of movements will be very beneficial to really promote extra movement in the hip before we start loading them up with some, say, squats or lunges or deadlifts. Some thoracic rotations here, full arm and then bent arm, focusing on keeping your core muscles engaged and adding some rotation across the upper back. Next we're going to move right way back down into a child's pose. So drop the hips back down to the heels, reach around, grab the ankles, and then come forward into a cobra, where you get a nice arch through your low back. And again, holding these for a little bit longer than you would in mobilization, because it's very good at the end. Just get a bit of a stretch across the low back and core muscles. Back into a child's pose, up into a cobra, mobilize the whole body.